Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show where we take on complex subjects and, well, we try to make them simple, giving you the tools you need to succeed.
And today we're tackling a big one, a really big one for university students everywhere. We're talking about mastering formal academic writing in English.
Yeah, this is a huge challenge, and we've designed this deep dive for a very specific group of learners. This is for you if you already know English, but now you're facing this whole new world of writing at a high academic standard.
It really can feel like learning a new language, can't it? Moving from how we speak every day to the very rigid structure of academic writing. It's a huge jump.
It is. So our mission today is to give you a stress-free guide, a shortcut to understanding the basic architecture of essays. We're drawing on the core concepts from the Longman Academic Writing Series 4, and our whole goal is to make these rules, which can seem really intimidating, feel a lot more straightforward.
Right. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, we need to frame this correctly. We know so many of you are working incredibly hard in your classes. Think of what we're doing today as supplemental material.
Like a review session.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're here to reinforce what you're learning, to go over some key rules, and hopefully build your confidence. But, and this is really important, this absolutely does not replace attending the lessons you have in your class.
That classroom instruction is the foundation. It's the most important part of your learning. And on that note, we really want to give a sincere thank you to Dr. Abdul Karim.
Yes.
Your work in providing this source material and your guidance for your students is what makes this kind of learning possible. We really appreciate the clear, structured path you've laid out.
Absolutely. So today we're going to follow that blueprint. We'll move logically from the smallest piece of writing to the biggest. We're going to hit three main phases.
Okay, what's the plan?
First, we'll build a strong, solid paragraph, the foundation. Second, we'll talk about research skills, how to use sources correctly, and how to avoid the very serious problem of plagiarism.
And third?
Third, we scale up. We take those perfect paragraphs and build them into a full, coherent essay driven by a powerful thesis statement.
I like it. Let's start at the beginning. Because if your paragraph is weak, the whole essay is just going to fall over. You need a perfect brick before you can build a wall, right?
That's the perfect analogy. So let's talk about that brick.
Okay, part one, the foundation, the clear, effective paragraph.
You know, when you look at any academic paper, the paragraph is the basic unit of an idea. It really is. And I'll say this, if you can write a perfect paragraph, you have honestly mastered probably 80% of what it takes to write a great essay.
So the rest is just stacking them correctly.
It's just stacking them and connecting them.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of it. Every good paragraph has three essential parts, right?
Three non-negotiable parts. You need a topic sentence, you need supporting sentences, and you need a concluding sentence.
Let's start at the top. The topic sentence. You called this the most important sentence in the paragraph. Why?
Because it's like the brain of the whole operation.
Yeah.
It does two jobs at once. First, and this is the obvious one, it tells your reader, hey, this is what this paragraph is going to be about.
Okay.
But second, and this is maybe more important for you as the writer, it creates a boundary. It's a guide for you that helps you stay focused on one single idea.
So it keeps you from wandering off.
Precisely. And the way it does that is through its two parts. A strong topic sentence, or TS, has to have a topic, that's the general subject, and what we call a controlling idea.
The controlling idea. That sounds important.
It's everything. The controlling idea is the filter. It takes your broad topic and narrows it down to the specific angle or focus you're going to prove.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say your topic is just communication with colleagues. That's huge, right? You could write a whole book on that.
Right. Email, meetings, body language.
Yeah.
Anything.
Exactly. But what if you add a controlling idea? Communication with colleagues requires sensitivity and understanding.
Ah, okay.
See what that does. Suddenly, every single sentence that comes after that one has to prove why sensitivity and understanding are so important. It forces you to be specific.
It tells you what to include, but also what to leave out.
That's the key. It tells you what to exclude. That's how you stay focused. Now, for non-native English speakers, getting this scope right is often the first big challenge. The source material points out three really common mistakes.
The three incompletes or two?
Yep. The first one is super simple, writing an incomplete sentence. Your topic sentence has to be a full, grammatically correct sentence, a subject and a verb. The importance of good communication, for example, is not a sentence, it's a phrase. The reader is left wondering, what about its importance?
Oh, I see. So it has to be a complete thought. What's the second mistake?
Being too general. If your topic sentence is so broad it could introduce an entire textbook, it's not going to work for a paragraph.
Like the example here. The Arabic origin of many English words is not obvious.
Exactly. That's a fascinating topic, but you can't cover that in 6 sentences. It's
Ah.
just too big. A better topic sentence would narrow it down, maybe to words related to science or trade, something manageable.
And the third error is the total opposite, right? Being too specific.
Right. You don't want to give away your proof in the very first sentence. So if you write, the slang expression so long is probably a corruption of the Arabic salam, that's a fantastic detail.
That's a supporting fact.
The perfect piece of support. But if you make it the topic sentence, you have nowhere else to go. You've already made your most specific point.
So the perfect topic sentence is like a funnel. Broad enough at the top to introduce the idea, but narrow enough at the bottom to focus the paragraph.
That is the perfect way to think about it. And once that funnel is in place, you start filling the paragraph with your supporting sentences.
This is the main body of the paragraph, where you actually prove the point you made in the topic sentence.
And this leads us to maybe one of the most important rules in all of academic English. You have to separate facts from opinions. If you can't do this, your argument just has no credibility.
Okay, let's define this clearly. Facts are objective statements.
Right. Thing that can be proven with evidence, with data, with measurements. A classic example. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That is a fact. It's verifiable.
And opinions.
Opinions are subjective. They're your beliefs, your feelings, your attitudes. And in formal academic writing, an opinion is not valid support, not unless you're citing it as the stated opinion of an expert in the field.
This is a tricky area because sometimes we think a common belief is a fact. Like the example, women live longer than men.
That's a great example. Many people would say that's a fact. But in an academic paper, that statement is just a generalization. It's an opinion until you back it up with a citation.
So you'd need to cite a study from the World Health Organization or census data.
Precisely. The data, the citation, is what transforms that opinion into a piece of evidence. And we call that evidence-specific supporting details, or SSDs.
SSDs.
For university writing, your SSDs need to be solid. Statistics, facts, data, and of course, quotations from reliable sources. This is what gives your writing authority.
Because if you're just listing your own beliefs without proof.
That's not an academic paragraph. That's a diary entry. You need external proof to make your case.
So after you've made your case with strong supporting details, you have to land the plane, the concluding sentence.
You do. And it has two simple jobs. First, it signals to the reader, okay, we're done with this idea now. And second, it reminds the reader of the main point. It's basically a rephrasing, a paraphrase of your topic sentence.
And there's one huge rule here. No new ideas.
Absolutely not. This is a critical mistake. If you introduce a new thought or a new piece of information in your conclusion, you're breaking the unity of the paragraph and leaving your reader hanging.
So if your paragraph was about the benefits of electric cars, you don't end by saying, but the batteries are hard to recycle.
Never. That's a topic for a whole new paragraph. The conclusion is only for summarizing what you've already proven.
And we can use signal words to help with this. Things like in conclusion or to sum up.
Yes, and it helps to know the punctuation. Phrases like in brief, in conclusion, therefore. Those are followed by a comma.
But other phrases just flow right into the sentence.
Exactly. Something like the evidence suggests that.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a comma after it. Getting these little punctuation rules right just makes your writing look more polished and professional.
Okay, so now we have the perfect three-part structure. Now we need to make it all flow together. That brings us to unity and coherence.
Right. These two concepts sound similar, but they're actually different.
Let's start with unity. This one seems pretty straightforward.
It is. Unity just means you stick to one and only one main idea in the paragraph. Every single supporting sentence has to directly prove or explain the idea in your topic sentence.
So if your topic sentence is about the causes of stress, and you start talking about the symptoms of stress...
That sentence breaks unity. It's off topic, you have to delete it. It's a very strict rule.
Okay, so that's unity. What about coherence? You said this one is trickier.
It is, especially in English. Coherence is about making the paragraph hold together. It means the sentences connect to each other logically and smoothly. The reader shouldn't have to guess how sentence B relates to sentence A. If it feels choppy or disconnected, it lacks coherence.
And the source material gives us 4 specific ways to achieve this.
4 really powerful strategies, and they are so helpful for non-native English speakers. Number 1 is repetition of key nouns.
This feels counterintuitive. Aren't we always told not to repeat words?
In creative writing, maybe. But in academic writing, clarity is king. Students often try too hard to find synonyms, and they end up using a vague pronoun like it over and over again, which can become confusing.
So if the paragraph is about fear,
It's better to repeat the word fear than to keep saying it. The repetition keeps the reader focused on the main subject. It's a simple trick, but it's incredibly effective for clarity.
okay, that's a great tip. What's number 2?
Consistent pronouns. This is simple. Just maintain the same person and number throughout the paragraph. If you start talking about a student and using he or she, don't suddenly switch to you or they in the middle. Consistency is key.
Number 3 is transition signals.
Yes, the traffic signals of writing. These are the words and phrases that explicitly show the relationship between your ideas. Like however, in addition, for example, therefore, they guide the reader. We'll do a much deeper dive on these later.
And the 4th way to achieve coherence.
Logical order. This just means arranging your ideas in a sequence that makes sense. If you're telling a story, you use chronological order, time order. If you're describing a room, you might use spatial order from left to right or near to far.
So step 1 has to come before step 2.
Exactly. The order has to match the content. If you're explaining the 3 causes of a problem, you present them in a logical way. You don't jump around. This respects the reader's expectations and makes your argument easy to follow.
All right, so once we have this perfectly structured, unified, and coherent paragraph, we need to fill it with something. And at the university level, that means using research.
It does. And that brings us to a topic where the rules are strict and the consequences for breaking them are very, very high.
Part 2, the researcher's toolkit, using outside sources. And this starts with the big one, plagiarism.
We have to be incredibly clear about this. Plagiarism is using anyone else's words or their ideas without giving them credit. It's not a small mistake. In the academic world, it's considered a form of theft.
And the consequences are real. It's not just a bad grade.
No. It can lead to failing the course or even being expelled from the university. Students often have this misconception that if they just change a few words here and there, it's okay.
It is not okay.
It is not. The core rule you have to burn into your brain is twofold. First, if you use someone's exact words, they must be inside quotation marks. No exceptions.
And second.
Second, you must always, always cite your source. And that applies whether you're using their exact words, you're paraphrasing their words, or you're just borrowing their idea. If it didn't come out of your own head, you have to give credit.
So how do we give credit correctly? That's through citations.
Right. And the system usually has 2 parts. First, you have your in-text citations.
Those are the little references in parentheses right in the middle of your paragraph.
Exactly, like Smith 45. It's short, and it points the reader to the exact source and page number for that specific piece of information.
And the second part is the works cited list.
Right. Or a bibliography. This is the full list at the very end of your paper. It gives all the detailed information, author, title, publisher, date, so anyone can go and find the original source for themselves. The in-text citation is the signpost. The works cited list is the map.
Okay, so when we're borrowing information, we can do it directly or indirectly. Let's talk about direct quotations.
A direct quote is powerful. You're copying the source's words exactly as they were written, and you're putting them in quotation marks. This is great when you want to use the words of an expert to lend authority to your argument.
But the punctuation can be tricky.
It can. Here's a rule that often trips people up in English. Normally, periods and commas go inside the final quotation mark.
For example, the new policy is effective, she said. The comma is inside the quotes.
Correct. But if that quote is followed by an in-text citation, the rule changes. The period goes after the citation, so it would be, the new policy is effective, Jones 12, period.
That's a tiny detail, but it's one of those things that shows you know the rules. What if the quote is really long?
If it's 4 lines or longer, you use what's called a block quote. You get rid of the quotation marks entirely, and you indent the whole block of text 1 inch from the left margin. The formatting itself signals that it's a quote.
A word of warning, though. Don't overdo it with quotes.
Please don't. A paper that's just a string of long quotes looks lazy. It looks like you don't have any of your own ideas. Use them strategically, only when the original wording is perfect or the author's authority is essential.
Okay, so that's direct quotes. What about changing them to indirect quotations?
An indirect quote, or reported speech, is when you report what someone said without using their exact words. So you drop the quotation marks, and you usually introduce it with a verb like said, argued, or claimed.
And this is where it gets complicated for grammar because of the sequence of tenses rule.
Yes, this is a big one. When your reporting verb is in the past, tense like he argued or she stated. The verb tense in the quote itself often has to shift backward in time.
Can we go through the main shifts?
Absolutely. If the original quote was in the simple present, it changes to the simple past. So I am sick becomes he said that he was sick.
Okay, that makes sense.
If the original was in the simple past or the present perfect, it shifts back to the past perfect. So I visited Rome becomes she claimed that she had visited Rome.
And what about future words like will?
Those shift too. Will becomes would. Can becomes could. May becomes might. So I will help becomes he promised that he would help. It's about maintaining the logical time relationship from the perspective of when you were reporting it.
Okay, but now we have to give a huge, massive warning here.
This is the most important warning in this entire section. In academic writing, if you use this method, you change the tense, you drop the quotes, but you keep the author's original words and sentence structure, that is still plagiarism.
Even if you cite it.
Even if you cite it,
Yeah.
because you're trying to pass off their phrasing and structure as your own. This is why you cannot rely on just changing the tense. You must learn the single most important skill for a university researcher.
Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. This is the key. Paraphrasing is rewriting the source's idea completely in your own words, in your own sentence structure, but without changing the original meaning.
And unlike a summary, a paraphrase is about the same length as the original. You're keeping all the information, just reformulating it.
Yes. It shows that you truly understand the idea, so much so that you can explain it yourself. Let's walk through the steps, because this is where students really need a clear process.
Okay, a step-by-step guide to a good paraphrase.
Step 1. Read and understand. Don't just skim it. Read the original sentence or passage 2 or 3 times until you genuinely get what it means. Underline only the essential keywords that you can't really change.
Step 2.
Take notes. And this is the key. Put the original text away. Cover it up. Now, on a separate piece of paper, jot down a few words or short phrases from memory that capture the main ideas. Don't write full sentences.
Why not?
Because if you write full sentences, you'll be tempted to just copy the original structure. This step forces you out of that habit.
Okay, so you have your notes. Step 3.
Draft from your notes. Now, you write the paraphrase looking only at your own notes. Use your own words, your own sentence structure. Do not peek at the original text.
And the final step? Step 4.
Check and cite. Now, you bring the original back and compare it to your paraphrase. Is the meaning exactly the same? Good. Have you changed the vocabulary in the sentence structure? If you've used more than, say, 4 or 5 words in a row from the original, you need to revise it again. Once you're happy, add that in-text citation immediately.
Let's use an example of a bad paraphrase. If the original says, the vast majority of students avoid revision because they view writing as a product, not a process.
An unacceptable paraphrase, a plagiarized one, would be, most students don't do revisions since they see writing as a product instead of a process. All you've done is swap out a few words. That's not enough.
So a good one needs to be completely restructured.
Completely. Something like, the essential step of revision is often neglected by learners who mistakenly believe writing is a finished product rather than an ongoing process. See, the whole structure is different. That's the goal.
And quickly, what about summarizing? How is that different?
Summarizing is much simpler. It's also in your own words, but the goal is to make it shorter, much shorter.
You're just hitting the main points.
Only the main points. You leave out all the details, all the examples. You condense a whole article or chapter down to a few sentences. And of course, you still have to cite it.
Okay, so we've mastered the paragraph. We know how to use sources. Now it's time to put it all together.
Time to scale up from the perfect paragraph to the complete essay.
Part 3. And you have an analogy for this, that an essay is really just a stack of well-organized paragraphs.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it has the same 3-part structure, just bigger. An introduction, which is 1 paragraph, a body, which is 1 or more paragraphs, and a conclusion, which is also 1 paragraph.
And the parts of the essay correspond directly to the parts of a paragraph.
They do. The topic sentence of a paragraph becomes the thesis statement of the essay. It controls the whole paper.
And the supporting sentences.
They become the body paragraphs. Each body paragraph is like a big supporting sentence proving 1 part of your thesis.
And the concluding sentence becomes the final concluding paragraph.
Exactly. The logic is identical. It just scales up.
So let's talk about that introductory paragraph. Its main job is to set the stage and present that all-important thesis statement.
Right. You start with a couple of general statements. You introduce the broad topic to get the reader interested and give them some context. You're basically funneling them down.
Down towards the thesis statement, you say this is the single most important sentence in the whole essay.
It absolutely is. A good thesis states your specific topic. It lists the subtopics you're going to discuss. which then become your body paragraphs. It indicates your pattern of organization, and it usually gives a hint about your overall argument or position. It's the roadmap for the entire paper.
And there are different ways to write that introduction. The classic one is the funnel introduction.
That's the safest and most recommended approach for students. You start broad with a general background statement. Your next sentence is a little more specific, and this one is even more specific until the very last sentence of the paragraph is your sharp, focused thesis statement.
But there are more dynamic ways, too, like an attention-getting introduction.
Right. You could start with a dramatic story, a shocking statistic, or a historical anecdote. These are great for hooking the reader, but it can be tricky to then transition smoothly from that creative hook to your formal academic thesis.
Let's focus on the thesis itself because this is where so many students struggle. Let's talk about the common pitfalls.
There are 3 big ones you have to avoid. Pitfall number 1. Your thesis is too general. It's a true statement, but it doesn't give any direction.
Like, a college education is a good investment.
Right, true, but so what? How are you going to prove that? An improved version would be, a college education is a good investment for 4 reasons, including higher future earnings and enhanced critical thinking skills.
Ah, now I know exactly what the body paragraphs will be about: earnings and critical thinking.
Exactly. Pitfall number 2. The thesis is just a simple announcement.
I am going to write about sports injuries.
That's not a thesis, that's telling me your plan. An improved version would make an argument. Athletes can avoid common sports injuries by taking a few simple precautions. Now you have a point to prove.
Okay, and the third pitfall. The thesis states an obvious fact.
Something that nobody would disagree with. The internet is a communications superhighway. Well, yes, we know. There's nothing to argue there.
So a better version.
A better version creates some tension or complexity. While the internet provides amazing access to information, its growth has had both positive effects on education and negative consequences for privacy.
Now you have a balanced, interesting essay to write. Compare and contrast.
Exactly. That strong thesis then dictates the entire organization of your body paragraphs. If your thesis lists 3 causes of a problem, then you're using a logical division of ideas pattern.
And you'll have 3 body paragraphs.
One for each cause.
Yeah.
And each of those body paragraphs will have its own topic sentence that introduces that specific cause.
And you mentioned a tip here for making it look really professional, using parallel grammatical form.
Yes. If your thesis lists your subtopics, try to make them grammatically identical. So if your first point is a noun phrase, make them all noun phrases. If it's a verb starting with ing, make them all start with ing. It just creates a really clean, organized, and sophisticated structure.
Okay, so after the body paragraphs, we land at the concluding paragraph.
And its job is to give the reader a sense of closure. It has 3 purposes. Signal the end, summarize your main points, which means restating your thesis in new words, and then offer one last powerful thought.
And the best conclusions go beyond just a simple summary.
They do. You can use more advanced techniques. You can make a prediction based on your evidence. You could suggest results or consequences, showing the bigger impact of your topic.
Or in an argumentative essay, you could recommend a solution or a call to action.
Exactly. Tell the reader what should be done. Or, a very powerful way to end is to quote an authority on the topic, a final, memorable quote that perfectly captures your main argument.
So your essay ends with a punch, not just fades away.
It lands with impact. That's the goal.
Okay, this brings us to the process itself. We've talked about the final product, but you emphasize that writing, especially for non-native speakers who need to focus on accuracy, is a process. It's about revision.
It is everything. You have to stop thinking of writing as a single event and start seeing it as a cycle. The magic, the quality, it doesn't happen in the first draft. It happens in the revision.
Step 4, polishing the draft. Let's walk through the 6 steps of the writing process.
And remember, this isn't a straight line. You'll often go back and forth between these steps. Step 1 is pre-write to get ideas.
Brainstorming.
Right. Before you even think about sentences, you just need ideas. You can make lists, you could free write, or you could do clustering, where you put your topic in a circle and draw lines to related ideas, like a mind map. The goal is just to get content on the page.
Step 2, organize ideas.
This is your outline. This is the architectural plan. You use Roman numerals for your main sections, capital letters for your body paragraph topic sentences, and numbers for your specific supporting details. An outline is not optional. It ensures your essay will be logical.
Step 3, write the first draft.
And the key here is to write it quickly. Just get the ideas down. Follow your outline, but don't stop to check spelling or fix grammar. If you try to write and edit at the same time, you'll get bogged down and lose your flow.
This is a huge tip. Just get it out.
Just get it out, because step 4 is revise the draft. And this is the step most students skip.
And revision isn't editing.
It is not. Revision is about the big picture. Content and organization. You look at your essay and ask the big questions. Did I actually prove my thesis? Is every paragraph unified? Does the logic flow? This is where you might delete a whole paragraph or move things around.
Only after that do you move to step 5, edit and proofread.
Now you focus on the small stuff. The mechanics. Grammar, punctuation, spelling, word choice. This is where you hunt for errors. For non-native speakers, it's really helpful to have a personal checklist of your common mistakes, like verb tenses or articles.
And the final step 6 is to write a new draft.
You incorporate all those changes from your revision and editing, and you produce a clean, final copy that's ready to submit.
It's so important to see it as a cycle. The first draft is just the starting point.
That's all it is. It's the clay. The revision and editing is where you sculpt it into the final piece.
Okay, let's circle back to something we mentioned earlier because it's so critical for flow. Let's do a deeper dive on transition signals.
Yes. Using these words precisely is a hallmark of advanced academic writing. It's how you show the reader the exact logical connection between your ideas.
And it's not just about knowing the words, but knowing the grammar and the punctuation that goes with them.
That's the key. So let's break it down by function. To introduce an additional idea, you use words like furthermore, moreover, in addition. Grammatically, these are usually preceded by a semicolon or a period, and they're always followed by a comma.
Okay, and to introduce an opposite idea or a contrast.
You have words like however or phrases like, on the other hand. But you also have subordinating conjunctions like although, while, and whereas, and their grammar is different.
We'll get to that. To introduce a conclusion or a summary, you have words like therefore or in conclusion.
And to introduce an example, you use, for instance, where the phrase such as, which has to be followed by a noun.
Okay, let's drill down on the punctuation because this is where the errors happen. Let's start with words like therefore and however.
Right. Those are called conjunctive adverbs. They connect two complete sentences. And the rule is you must use a semicolon before them and a comma after them.
So the data was inconclusive. However, the team decided to proceed.
Perfect. If you only use a comma there, it's a very common error called a comma splice or run-on sentence.
Okay, how is that different from simple conjunctions, the hem boys for and nor, but, or yet so?
Those also connect two complete sentences, but they only need a comma before them. The data was inconclusive, but the team decided to proceed. Much simpler.
And finally, the tricky ones like although or because.
Those are subordinating conjunctions. They create a dependent clause. The rule is simple. If the dependent clause comes first in the sentence, you follow it with a comma. Because the data was inconclusive, the team decided to proceed.
But if it comes second?
No comma. The team decided to proceed because the data was inconclusive. Nailing that punctuation really signals that you have a command of English sentence structure.
Okay, finally, let's touch on 2 quick strategies for building a more professional vocabulary.
First is understanding word families. Many English words share a common root, but they change their ending depending on if they are a verb, a noun, an adjective, or an adverb.
So the verb analyze is related to the noun analysis and the adjective analytical.
Exactly. Knowing these families helps you fix your own grammar. If you realize your sentence needs a noun in the subject position, but you've written a verb, you can find the correct form from that word family.
And the second strategy is using synonyms carefully.
Very carefully. We said earlier not to overuse them in place of key nouns, but they are important for variety. The danger is that synonyms are rarely perfect matches. They often have different connotations, different shades of meaning.
Like your example of stingy and frugal.
Right. They both mean you're careful with money. But stingy is negative. It implies you're mean. Frugal is positive. It implies you're wise and efficient. You have to use a good dictionary to make sure the synonym you choose has the exact tone you need for a formal academic paper. Precision is everything.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground today. From the tiny topic sentence all the way up to the full writing process and advanced transitions.
We really have. And I think it comes down to 4 critical pillars for success. First, the paragraph. It needs that focused topic sentence, objective support, and a clean conclusion.
Second, citation is non-negotiable. And mastering paraphrasing is the only way to be truly safe from plagiarism.
Third, the essay's entire structure flows from its thesis statement. That thesis must be specific, it must be arguable, and it has to give direction.
And fourth, true coherence, that smooth flow, comes from the precise use of transition signals and their correct punctuation.
Exactly. And please remember, this is a process. It's a skill you build over time through writing and revising, and then rewriting again. The later chapters in your course will cover really complex grammar, but what we've talked about today is the skeleton. It's the structure that holds all of that complex grammar together.
We really encourage you to review these ideas. You are building a very specific, high-level skill here.
And we want to end by, once again, expressing our sincere thanks to Dr. Abdul Karim. The clear framework and instruction you provide is what makes this journey possible for your students. It's hard work, but it's work that will absolutely pay off.
All right, to close out, here's a final thought for you to take with you as you plan your next big writing assignment. The source material you're using covers different types of advanced essays like cause-effect or argumentative. So think about this. How does the structure of your argument affect its persuasiveness? Specifically, how can understanding the difference between block organization, where you discuss all of point A and then all of point B, versus point-by-point organization, where you weave them together, immediately simplify and strengthen your next essay?
Which structure is better for the kind of evidence you have? That's a great question to consider. Until next time, stay structured, stay organized, and keep diving deep.